Ever wonder what it's like to be a game developer? Peppy, the lead developer of OS, has your answer.
Had like a midnight coffee and now it's 3 a.m.
Peppy also walked me through the newest lazer update, which should have featured the Argon skin for Catch, like how the last 2 updates did for Mania and OS, but things happened.
I started on it and I was just mentioning it to Flight and he's like, oh, I've done a completely new design of that. I'm like, what? I look at the document, it's completely changed since the 2 days ago when I looked at it. I'm like, oh, fucking hell.
So look forward to that in the next update. For now, enjoy the first ever Tiny Changes edition of Lazer Updates, featuring 30 different changes from this release. Let's get started.
We're going to keep adding more interesting UI components like the longest combo counter. They're obviously going to be things that you add yourself. They're not going to be in the default UI, so you will need to go into the skin editor to add that to your skin.
Hey, listen closely. That's new. Argon was added for Mania last week, but apparently one of the column colors was duplicated. If you play 7K, you'll see this purple was axed and green was slotted in. If you click circles, Argon is updated for you too. Specifically these great or miss indicators, which were pretty hard to see before.
When the Argon hit explosion happens, there's a lot of lighting going on, and until this change, the judgments were hidden behind that lighting, and this change just brings them to the front.
I have a feeling people aren't going to like this change. They kind of liked having the thing invisible.
Yeah, well, making it invisible again will come later on, actually forcing it to be invisible.
Argon in the editor is working a bit better now too. Before now, new combos sometimes led to this, which does look kinda cool but is super unintended. Alongside Argon, Peppy's big focus recently has been improving UI and UX for the editor. Most of those changes are still in the development pipeline, but a few changes made it in this update, like the slider ball facing the wrong direction when rewinding, some words being cut off here and over here, and a better design for toolboxes.
And that change actually, yeah, because the editor shares UI logic with the player loading screen, that also made the player loading screen's settings to the right-hand side look a lot nicer.
This person, whose name I can't pronounce, also improved the editor, first by ensuring no objects are skipped when selecting in the timeline, then by doing the same for Catch and Mania's playfields. Tycho was excluded for some reason, sorry Tycho. And lastly, by making playfield visibility in the Catch editor more flexible.
It's a bit of a weird one to use because you have to rebind the scroll speed increase and decrease bindings, since currently they conflict with the editor modes switching. But if you do that, you can actually change the height of the Catch editor to see more or less of the playfield, which is kind of cool.
And one more tiny editor update. Alabombi fixed slider to stream conversion that would sometimes do this. There's only one area of Lazer that's more important than the editor to me, and that's gameplay. No, of course not. It's smoke. With the addition of smoke last update, a few issues were discovered. When Relax mod was enabled, you couldn't use smoke. So now you can. When no scope was enabled, however, you could use smoke, which might as well have been cheating since the mod hides your cursor, so no more smoke there. Smoke also had a length limit, which is now completely removed, and smoke no longer weirdly shakes when paused. It's kind of creepy. Okay, actual gameplay changes now. Just like stable, flashlight during breaks now expands instead of staying the same size. Legacy skins that have a tinted slider ball actually work now, and objects fade out just like stable. This is a really tiny change. Last update we talked about how Lazer can feel different from stable because of tiny differences, and this is just another one of those. In Tycho, bar lines now generate correctly. This applies to maps that have a lot of timing points closely together, and any maps that use this feature to remove bar lines. Also, apparently drum rolls just looked like this sometimes. It's ridiculous.
That one would happen if there is a timing point halfway through a drum roll. Don't know how that was not reported until now.
Catch has this special combo counter floating above the player in classic skins, which according to Peppy was programmed in some special way. Unintentionally, this means it also wasn't part of the HUD, so you couldn't hide your combo till this change. Oh, and weirdly enough, you could interact with HUD elements while they were hidden too. That was unintended, and now it's gone. Lastly, in Mania, the PP counter no longer does this when rewinding, and there's a hit sound for hold notes. Speaking of sounds, Necodex also added samples for the sidebar. Amazing.
I'm sure you've seen we're going to have an overflow, and like it's the end of us.
OS is not dead, and the new score infrastructure created in response to this Doomsday event is nearly ready. So yeah, you can submit new scores, no surprise there, but this new system also moves us closer to the day that lazer merges with stable.
It means that at some point in the future we can just flick a switch and have lazer and classic scores both existing in the same leaderboard. What we're doing as a preliminary step is moving them all to the same storage engine and then filtering them, but we could just remove that filter and show both, which will be one of the final steps once we figure out balance and whatnot.
So overall, the future of scoring is good. But we're stuck in the present. For now, we're still dealing with absolute nonsense like add support for weird storyboards which have backwards events.
Yeah, so apparently some storyboarders actually made backwards transforms, as in the start time is later than the end time, and stable just works with that. Now lazer does too.
Score v2. This is the standard scoring algorithm for tournaments. It caps at 1,000,000 points and values accuracy more than classic scoring. Lazer also has a score system that caps at 1,000,000 points, but it's not quite the same as Score v2. To show exactly how the score systems compare, Peppy set up graphs.
It's hard to explain this in words, and that's why I made this test scene, so you can align lazer classic scoring, lazer standardized scoring, and Score v1, Score v2. Those last two haven't really been possible to visualize in lazer until now, so I actually re-implemented those algorithms, and now you can just add some misses or 100s, and see how that affects progress of the score over time, and also the maximum score.
So this is in the test portion of lazer, which can be run by doing this in the project directory and searching for scoring. Peppy may also release a standalone version of this for more accessibility, but that would come later. Alright, we're on to the last change now. This one is practically the embodiment of this tiny changes edition of lazer updates, because it really is tiny. It's just a nicer screen transition, but at the same time, I think it also shows just how much progress the lazer is making.
That's a kind of subtle one, but it's like my commitment to making everything feel as superfluous as possible in terms of transitions between screens, and we're definitely not there yet. Like, I've got so much polish work I want to do on lazer, but I'm finally getting to the point where I can spend some time, or where I feel like I can spend some time on polish.
Lazer has honestly progressed a lot. I remember back when lazer was first published, I checked its editor every few weeks just to track development, and half a decade later, it's received so many big changes. Like, lazer as a whole has improved to a point where big changes almost aren't necessary. Tiny changes, like what we've talked about today, will eventually be all the polish it needs before taking over stable. Lazer isn't there yet though. Big changes are still on the way, but at least we're getting close. And that's cool. If you want to know exactly how close, maybe you should read the full changelog for everything I couldn't fit in this video. Thanks for keeping up with lazer's progress so far. We'll see you again soon. Also, next update's going to be shorter. This was way too long.